Hello. Thank you for joining us for this panel. I hope you find your way up here all the way to the top, and I hope it's nice and cold and you will get some fresh air. And whenever you feel free to get a drink or something else, please do that. I'm Hannah. I'm going to moderate this panel for you. I'm very excited to see you all. I was part of the 12 Minutes Me Munich team. I founded 12 Minutes Me Munich with the entire team, and this is the skirt I've been wearing to every single moderation for 12 Minutes Me. So it feels very, very coming like home, you know, like very familiar. It's great to see all what the team put together for 12 Hours Us, and we have so many interesting speakers, 4 of them, which sit right here, and are going to talk about a very interesting topic just in a bit. We have 48 minutes that already started, and we have 12 minutes Q&A afterwards. But whenever you feel free to have a question in between, please do it, and please raise your hand. We also have, as a little side note, and very interesting, Helena is sitting here with the graphic recording. She will do it simultaneously, so whenever you think you're already like, okay, you can listen and hear what we actually say here, watch what she's doing. She's even, drawing while we are speaking, while she's looking at us, while she is understanding what we actually say. So very, very great to have you, Helena. Very interested to see then what's happening over there. And I briefly want to tell you who is who, and then they are going to introduce themselves just for a quick sentence, or for 1 or 2 sentences, or maybe 12 seconds, no. So you can then get the best information out you can have. We have our panel, Educate for Tomorrow, the role of creativity in a contemporary education. So that sounds broad and interesting and very niche-y as well. So I start with the ladies first. Tina Egolf is here. Futurist, workmaker. She just had a 12 Minutes Me talk downstairs. Who joined her? Who watched her already? Ah, so they followed you. Very good, very good, yes. Then we have Nora here, Nora Dietrich, expert for organizational change and behavioral therapist. So she, also in red, very nice. She's also here. She will have a talk later on. Then we have Bernd here, Bernd Heusinger, founder and co-CEO of Hirschen Group. You still have a talk, right? It's coming up. Yes. Afterwards. So follow him afterwards. And then also you had a talk yet. You already talked downstairs. Gert Spender, serial entrepreneur and business unit manager at the Aalborg University. So we don't only have a German view and perspective today. We also have one from, where's Aalborg? Denmark. Correct. Gert, you can start off. I hand over the mic, and please give them a warm welcome with a round of applause. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Gert Spender, and as you said, I just held a speech, and it was about how the ecosystem works in Danish universities, seen with the perspective of a serial entrepreneur. I've been a serial entrepreneur for more than 25 years, doing a lot of businesses, and also worked as a CEO in a company based on research to business. So I actually took out research to business from the university. That's why I'm sitting in the role I'm in today.
So I'm Tina, and I'm interested in the future of work and how we're going to work in the future, but also how our systems will change and how our workforce will change. And what I'm doing at the moment, I used to be at a CPO of Clue. It's a femtech startup in Berlin. So I'm coming from product development, and I'm currently building a platform to introduce a new career model that has the goal of making people more independent from traditional employment. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Nora, as you already heard. I'm a psychotherapist at heart for adults and also children. But a couple of years ago, I moved to the space of team and leadership development. And I love humans, so I do everything that has to do with people, especially in the workplace. And I'm the co-founder of Reflection, and we strengthen founders and their teams to excel in terms of growth, just because, yeah, being in a growing startup is a very different environment. And this is what my talk will be about later. It's about what dating has to do with a growing startup. So yeah, happy to see your faces there.
So I'm Bernd Heusinger. I founded the agency Zum Goldenen Hirschen in Hamburg in 1995. But since then there was a lot of change, and now I'm CEO of Hirschen Group, which is a holding company, and inside of Hirschen Group there are 8 independent agencies and consulting companies which do digital consulting, political communication consulting, digitalization consulting, also websites and internet development, and also classical advertising. And I think I'm not here because I'm because I founded an advertising agency, but more because I wrote a book. It's called Kreativiert euch, Creativate Yourself, which is not about the creativity in advertising, but it's about creativity in society, in education, in politics, and the importance of creativity for the future of the jobs of each of us and each of our children.
I was just about to ask, what did you bring with you? And it's not red, it's bright neon orange. But I bet you can check later on what is also inside. And you also got some notes in there. So will you be reading some of them to
no,
us?
I won't, because it's in German.
So you can translate directly, right?
Yeah, but I will have my own talk like in 1 hour, and then I put out some English words, and so I have to just polish something maybe.
Very, very good. A true expert in that field. So when you thought about education and creativity, what comes to your mind? Like, what's the first thought that you have that it's actually, does it fit together, being creative in the education world, or does our education need more creativity, or do you think you had a very creative education in many different ways? What's your first impression when you come to those two words being connected?
So to put it short, we think that creativity and empathy will be the only hard facts of having jobs in 30 or 40 years, because each job which is like reproductive and is very simple will be done by algorithm, by robots, by computers. So creativity and empathy is the thing which will be left for humans, but which will be also the most important thing for humans. So it's not about should education be more creative. It's about how could education teach pupils and children and also older people, everybody, how to be creative yourself. And that's teachable, and that's the important thing.
Yeah, I think for me it's the same. I think what it is about is that we have to start sparking curiosity in our children. And I think the way we teach and learn today doesn't necessarily have a lot to do with that. So it's rather still the old system from, 200 years ago that we apply. And I think one of the biggest issues we have is that our teachers, and also we as parents then later, we didn't learn how to spark curiosity with children back then. So how are we supposed to teach it then? So I think sometimes I dream of like reverse mentoring within the school, so the kids teach us what they need to learn, because I feel we have to actually keep up with them to then be able to, make them more creative, in that sense.
Yeah, I must say I'm a bit skeptical when it comes to this topic, because people have a tendency to radicalize ideas, right? So it's easy to think in black and white. And the industrial age, so to speak, has trained us to value intelligence and performance as the highest standards. So at the moment, everything is about learn fast, be smart. The biggest insult you can get to someone at the moment in the working space is you're stupid. You don't get it, right? Or you're not hardworking, you're failing. And what we do now is say, okay, this is done, we solved it, bullshit. Now it's creativity, Creativity is the thing. So if you're not creative, you're not going to be valuable in the future. I don't know. I mean, yes, creativity is important. Empathy is as well. But there are so many other skills that are as well and are going to be in the future. Having an automation process that makes ridiculous jobs not necessary anymore doesn't mean that creativity is the only thing. Then you could argue what means creativity, and then we're in a semantic discussion. I just would like to avoid the radicalization of these topics, because not everyone is the same when it comes to creativity. Not everyone can be creative in a way that actually moves them forward. So now just shifting the terms and just not calling it intelligence anymore, but creativity, and then hoping for the best is dangerous, in my opinion.
What would you call it then? Or what would be a better approach?
There is no one thing. There is no one attribute that we can teach people. I mean, we need to basically install in people the sense of that they need to develop, that they need to evolve, that they need to find the right thing for them and live based on their talents. And for some people that's analytical thinking, for other people that's craftsmanship, right? And the next one is going to be creativity. But self-responsibility, being aware and reflected, and here comes psychological training into the game, is super crucial. But it doesn't mean that we need to now focus on one single skill again and do the same things just with a different connotation.
So we need many different skills, or we need to broaden our horizon.
We need the ability to actually keep learning and embracing who we are and not trying to be someone we are not, just because it's a trend.
Yeah, and I think it's not about creating pillars again, you know, like our schooling system is based on pillars. We have math and science and biology and German or whatever it might be, but it's rather about having a project, like a challenge, and then make kids learn through that, where they have to apply very different skills, where they can actually figure out who am I, what am I good at, what can I learn from others, what can I teach others. So they have role switches within one system, despite like either knowing, okay, I'm good at this, but I'm bad at that, and how do I feel about it, depending what other people value. And I think we have to change the way we make them learn, which could be project-based. There are some schools out there who already do that, and they're very, very successful with it. Kids love learning that way because they don't get educated. They are just allowed to learn, which is very different in my opinion.
So Gert, do we start in university with it, or do we start already in preschool, kindergarten? Oh, you muted it. No, take this one.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Actually, we have a creativity line at the Aalborg University, and it's a very interesting topic. I'm not used to, go into these. Oh, is it not turned on?
It is on.
Just take this one.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. I'm working at the university, and in the university we have areas of creativity, and we have been trying to work with creativity for many years. And this is Gert. And that has given a lot of both good results and bad results. The good results are that we have kind of cooperated creativity into the work. We use a special teaching method at Aalborg University called PBL. That's problem-based learning, where we put people into groups. And when we do that, we actually put these students into working together and learning about how to be creative. And these groups has actually come out and been very good at working with society. That means into industry and working together with industry. But after trying that for many years, I think it's kind of going a little down, although I know that creativity is growing in the minds of people. We have to be creative. I have been working creatively at the university since I started. Creativity is just a part of us. It's just something that you do when you go into, for instance, you do a business model or you do whatever. You go in, you sit down, you work, brainstorm with the people. And the most creative people is actually the ones who starts the conversation within the group. And that is very exciting. So we are trying to take a kind of a point out of that, and we have gone into making some, it's not AI, but we have made a creative genius platform that is taken out of the research we've done there, and we have actually put it into an IT platform to train kids to set their mindset, to go into schools, to go into the universities and be ready to have this or bring along this creativity for what we are doing. So I think this is a very important aspect for me, because creativity in my day, or you working with people who has some insight of creativity, are doing very well actually. But they're taking it out now of the universities. Anybody want to?
Let's distribute this again. You want to answer?
You want to answer?
there's no question. So, but I think, especially in the early school classes, it's very important to teach children something like creativity and how to be creative, because there are lots of households where you say, for if you have this problem, there's this one solution, and there's only one solution to everything. And the first thing you have to teach to pupils everywhere is that for each problem there are multiple of solutions, and it's fun to find out, to think and to brainstorm how can I solve my problem, whether it's a problem like how to repair my kitchen, how to get a new girlfriend, how to cope with the teacher, whatever. The creativity is not like painting a colorful picture is just one mini part of creativity. Creativity is to solve the problems of your life, and if you learn children very early that for every problem there are multiple solutions, and the way of creativity is to put like 5-6 solutions on the table, to come up with them, and then to find out which is the most powerful for your problem. If all children learn that, and then they see the fun of creativity, because it's fun to come up with new ideas, and they see that it's really a problem-solving thing and not just like an entertainment thing to make some music or whatever. And that's, I think, the first point where we have to start with.
I can jump into that, because the interesting thing about this is, I agree, it's an interesting skill to be able to come up with various solutions. And when these kids grow older, they end up in a company, and then they do a business model workshop or whatever. And then, for example, they sit in front of me as their product consultant or as their product manager, and they come up with 15 different ways of solving the business problem. And what happens then is, then we go to, well, the first 5, too far out there. The next 5, don't really have the skills in-house. The next 3 actually takes too long. And now we're down to 2. So, and that is, not only for them, but also for me as the consultant, a very frustrating experience. So it is, I mean, it's one thing to say you can come up with a lot of solutions, but I think the problem at the moment is that people just don't have the capacity, the capability to dare and actually do it. So there is so many ideas that just shut down because people don't have the resources or the mandate or whatever it takes to actually follow through. Because if you've done this a couple of times, at one point you will realize there's no need in finding 10 different solutions if they all cannot be implemented.
But what's the alternative? The alternative is, okay, this is a problem and I have done this solution before and it worked somehow, so let's do it again.
No, the solution is to teach people not only to come up with 10 solutions, but actually to teach them the skill to follow through on those that actually matter.
That's part of creativity for me.
Well, okay, now we're back into the semantics, but I think so the point is creativity is a very important stepstone. But creativity is not the solution. The combination with resilience, with power, with courage, with actually the freedom to go against standards, go against how it is done before, that is something that is far bigger than creativity. And I think this is what we need to, when we talk about education, this is what we need to educate for. And that's the only thing I'm saying. I don't want this discussion to be limited to creativity, because it will not solve the problem on its own.
Oh, but you need the basic skills of creativity and of finding creative solutions to then have the bravery and the power to find the best solution, to fight it through and so on. If you don't start creatively and just with a single-minded solution, the rest will not make sense.
I think you're both right to some extent. So when I work with children, it's actually so funny because they are so, like, they have fantasy, this is how they're born. Like there's a whole developmental stage when we grow up where it's only about exploration. It's about figuring things out, not knowing what the solution might be. But what we do is we train them to not use that anymore, because we are the ones standing in front. It's like, what is this? You know, I don't have any concept for that, so explain it to me. So we then start judging them. We start putting values on what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is quality, what is not quality. So I think they have the curiosity. They are born with creativity, but we slowly take it away in a sense. And I think what you just said is like very true. It's rather about building courage and saying, okay, this needs like a strong personality to say, hey, I have an idea and I might be wrong, but I still want to try. So I think this is something we don't talk openly about. I think Germany is, when we look at the like culture of failure, we are the second last. After us, there's only Singapore, and you cannot even chew chewing gum. So I think, you know, we have work. There's work to be done. But I think we have to be aware as teachers, as educators, as people, like as consultants, we have to be aware that it's us that limits them. And when I learned to be a children's psychotherapist, I had a room and there was nothing in there. No toys, no opportunity to be loud. Like, how can I work with a child when even just the space doesn't allow them to be creative in a way? So I think we have a lot of things to think about.
So you're all facilitators of some kind of like getting people to think about, to start rediscovering their creativity, to really go into the process of, it's not just a trend you said earlier, or it shouldn't be just not a trend and very up to date to think about what's my personality, how do I fit in, what's my role. So when you come in those situations, when you go along with somebody wanting to find their purpose, you want them to grow, you want them to go into a field where it is suggested that they find out about their creativity or how they handle this in the workforce. How do you facilitate this? I mean, you have all kind of different aspects of your work that you actually do like go and have the space, and you offer the frames to really do it. What kind of challenges do you then see or come along with somebody who wants to actually discover but maybe has not yet the mindset maybe, or something else is blocking? What's your daily experience with that?
If you're a company representative, a corporate representative, do not pay for design thinking workshops or design sprints, please. Sorry. I think this is the one thing that, for example, I'm basically living in Berlin at the moment, and there is it's like a disease of everyone is a design sprint trainer, makes €1,000 a day by going into a company and tells them that they can facilitate innovation by putting them through a rigorous I'm so angry about this. A rigorous program over 5 days. I mean, in the beginning, this was a good idea and it works, but it needs a specific environment to work. And you cannot just take that little piece and put it into an organization and hope for the best. I mean, I know you can make a lot of money out of this, but this is not how it works. If you want to facilitate change, and that's basically what I tell corporations, but also individuals, because in the end, the corporation exists out of the individuals that make it work, is find people who tell you that you're okay, that you're right, that it's worth doing what you're doing, and that if you fail, they will still love you. In the end, this is all about, we are all social creatures, right? So we want to be part of this, we want to be appreciated, we want to be seen and we want to be heard. So if we do something, we stand there and then, I mean, the talk I gave before, right? I'm trying something, and the pitch was shit. I mean, I admit it. I rewrote this 2 days ago. I know it was not perfect. And I know a couple of people will think of you, well, it doesn't really work. But I couldn't follow through with this if I could not walk home and know there's my family and my friends, and they say, keep daring. Keep daring. No matter if you fail, no matter if you will live under the bridge, it's going to be okay, because you're still basically part of us. So if you want to facilitate change, create an environment where people still feel accepted no matter what they do. And if they do not follow a classical career, or if they try something else, it's okay.
That's absolutely right. So that's not the contrary of what I'm saying and writing. That's absolutely what I'm writing and saying. So.
Does it work? Yeah. Okay. In Denmark, we do it in a slightly different way. We also have the sprints and these things, but we also do for creative people a fuck-up night. So if you're done a fuck-up in a company, or you have done a company which was kind of broke down, or if it didn't work anymore, they come in and tell about it. They come in and tell the story about how did this company break down? How did I get bankrupt? And what have I done after that? And this gives the other persons in the room a kind of self-confidence, to go out there and maybe make a company themselves. It's not that bad to fail. So it's I've done it myself, and it's not funny in the beginning, but you learn from it, and you'll be more creative next time you do something because you put something into your bag.
And I think it's a very good point with design thinking. And it's like when you facilitate workshops, you come across a billion methods that you can apply to make people learn and grow. And I feel like a lot of facilitators don't even know why they use that method. They use it because it's trendy right now, or it sells well, or I don't know. But what most workshops I feel lack, and this is where learning comes into place, is like the transfer of skills. So what does it actually have to do with me in my daily life? Where can I apply design thinking ideas, like the process behind it, in my normal life? This is what we don't do. We have these artificial spaces where we then create things, and outside of the world we just use convenience products again. So it's just like very convenient also to just have the same method applied everywhere, even if it fits or doesn't fit, I feel.
I want to, or do you want to add something? No. I want to dive into also our main overall topic for the conference, Society Disrupted, and want to ask, do you think that this topic is already included in our society, or does it need to have a disruption? Does it need to have a disruptive pattern interrupt, you could say, or does it have to be a pattern that when you start learning and when you start discovering what your skills are and you lack something, that you feel ashamed of it and that you feel like you're missing out on something and that you maybe have not the strength or not the perfect surrounding to actually go through and work on it? Do you think that society is really open for it right now, or are there many doors we still have to unlock, and many other fields we actually have to talk about, or then start more discovering it, talking about it openly in public? Like, what are steps that you think could enhance it even more for our society?
I think one challenge with the current way we educate people is that we put people very early on in a box, and that defines a specific, not so much anymore as 20 or 30 years ago maybe, but still to a very strong extent, right? So you shape your professional identity in a very young age. We have a still very generalist basic education, but the moment you go into university, you're either into economics or you're into STEM or the arts, right? But then you enter your first job and then you're in HR, and then you're a software engineer. And this transition between professional identities is still not very easy. And I think it should be communicated more and more, because with the transition between professional identities comes the need, and obviously also hopefully the opportunity, to develop new skills, make new experiences, and so on and so forth. So continuous learning is a buzzword at the moment. And it is just that, it is a buzzword, because it needs to come with also the ecosystem to actually facilitate that. And the ecosystem requires an acceptance of diverse biographies and diverse professional biographies and paths. So career needs to be disrupted. And I mean, I'm pitching again.
How do you disrupt it?
Do you want me to pitch again?
Yes,
no.
Come on. Second try.
Okay, I'll do this fast. I think career needs to be disrupted because it needs to be made independent from organizations. I think we need to take career out of organizations altogether and say, here's a new ecosystem, here's a new platform, a new infrastructure that allows you to build your identity, develop it, and actually monetize it, independent from the company or the gig or the job that you currently make your money with. That's what we need.
That's a pitch.
That's
right?
a pitch.
Yes.
Done. Next one.
You can applaud. Yes, you can. Any other opinions on that?
So I think learning this disruption is hard, and especially in a country like ours, which is not celebrating failure, but making very bad feelings for people with failure. But on the other hand, I think to open the minds up from the beginning, there should not only be like creativity taught in schools, which should not be all day and all night and all of the time, but which should, for me, be part of a curriculum. But what's also important is, I think we should stop the pure focusing on the mint things, on mathematics, informatics, and stuff like that. Because yes, we need good programmers. Yes, we need informatics to be learned very early and so on. But the real important thing to trigger creativity, to trigger disruption, to trigger that failure is not a big thing and not really a problem, is stuff like sports, like arts, like music. And I think these parts of the curriculum in the last years, they are getting more and more brought down in schools and in university systems and so on. But to be a good programmer or to be a good businessman, you need to have the broad mind. You need. I think you will have better business ideas if you go into a modern art museum from time to time, to open your mind to see what's possible, to see how artists make completely new worlds with their works. And you also need to teach the children and to show the children this form of creative thinking and this form of being courageous also. So I really speak for more power, more money, more focus on music, art, sports, because that's also where you can fail. You can lose a match in football, and the next year you will be champion maybe. You can make a bad artwork and the next one is a great artwork. You can even destroy it yourself before you show it to people, or you show it to people and then they say, oh, this is boring, and then you make another one. So that's more playful. That's more playful than like in a corporation, in an insurance company. If you make a mistake, it's maybe it costs the company a lot of money and everybody is angry at you. But if you learn very early that you can do mistakes, you can you try and then you try again. And for me, there is music, arts, sports, etc. the best training ground, and that's why we should put effort into that.
So that's an investment for the long-term effort of changing something. What do we do with ourselves, with like the people in the room here, or with the companies that actually right now have problems to actually start changing, to actually start being more open to different career paths, to different personalities, to different identities? What do we do right now to make it easier? Any suggestions?
Yeah, they should think about their structure and they should open up for discussions with other people how their structure could be changed. You could not just say be more disruptive.
You can't.
You can say, of course, but you can't say be more disruptive, and then when your worker is coming to you and say, oh, why didn't we change our production process like that? And you say, oh no, it's working good. Don't come up with this stuff. Then he will never come up again with solutions and with ideas. So you need to change the culture, and you need to change your company structure, and you need to make spaces in your company where ideas and suggestions are asked, and you need to give the people the feeling that their ideas and their words are worth something and not just their reproductive power.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think what we need is what we do right now, or what we do in the 12 minutes, is that we need to tell stories about people who actually went through something. So when I work with people one-on-one, I am a role model, but also for failure, also for things that do not work. And I think I disrupted my career. I invested 9 years of education, of qualification to become a psychotherapist, to then figure out that it's actually a quite lonely job and that I'm just not a lonely person. I need a team. I mean, you're never alone because there's always someone in front of you, obviously, but you're never really working on something with like a broader mindset in a way. So I thought I'm going to do that. And the way people reacted was really negatively. So they were like, oh, but is it safe? And now you invested so much money and so much time. And I said, yes, that's true. And I'm very thankful that you worry for me, because then I don't have to do it myself anymore. But I'm going to try. And I'm a psychotherapist, so I can have my practice when I want, when I'm 50, and I think, okay, this is who I really am, that I do that. But it was actually tough to do that step, not necessarily only for me, because of course there was a lot of self-reflection involved, but especially to then also say, okay, thank you guys for worrying, but I still gonna try. So I think this is what we have to talk more openly about, that there are a billion people who do that every day, but we don't know about them. We rather like cover up with a lot of buzzwords, and like, you know, like I feel on conferences is always, I show what I do, but not how I do it and what it means to me. So there's always a level missing. So I think we have to be a bit more real and talk about these things.
So in the last 12 minutes, how do you actually do it then? Want to share some stories?
I'm sitting facilitating some of those business development meetings, and we had some discussions regarding one project. They have made a business. They had made a kind of a business that wasn't that good, in my opinion. And we tried to make some brainstorms in that business, and we talked a lot about how it should be and how it could be and what the technology they had could be used. And then it turns out that after 4 meetings, they have totally redecorated their company to start up. And guess what? These guys were Chinese guys. They're at the university. That's. I think it's quite impressive. Just sitting down, thinking, brainstorming, rethinking the whole business model, and make it work. Everybody can do that, but you have to be. It takes courage.
Maybe I can give a case study, so to speak. Not from myself, and from a guy you probably all know, because, again, a bit of a buzzword, Ricardo Semler. Don't know if you've heard about them, but he is fairly well known when it comes to future of work and new work practices. And this guy his ancestors were German, but then they moved to Argentina and founded a big manufacturing company. They built turbines and big machines, right? So a very classical industry. And when he took over, in the 70s, yeah, so no new work, 70s, he massively fucked up. He had a burnout and all people left, stocks went down, total disaster, and then he drew back and said, okay, let's do this again. And he tried something super radical at that time. He said, we want to install self-governed manufacturing sites. So basically the actual factory being completely self-governed by the people who work in it. And you could argue, well, this doesn't work because we've tried this, da 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 da. The interesting piece, however, is not the the self-government part. The interesting piece is what they also did is that they said, once a factory has moved too far away from the mothership, so once you've installed too many practices that do not fit to how we do business in the rest of the company, they encouraged them to actually create a spin-off. So they invested in this factory to become a company of themselves and be the first customer and be the first investor and so on and so forth. So when it comes to how to do it and also how large organizations can do it, I think it's not the way to go to create more and more startup labs and just incubate your own, but actually and try to do it again, because what happens there is you do not take the people within your company, you hire them from outside, put them in and hope for the best again, and then you see if it works or not, and then you spin it off. But what actually could work is that you really want to embrace change from a corporate perspective. take the people to do something different. And if it's too radical, then just help them become their own entrepreneurs. And help them, because as corporations, you have the reputation, you have the money, you have also the longevity to actually survive this. And that could be a fairly practical way of saying, well, let's just enable this a little bit more. And not just park them in some innovation hubs. I mean,
That's totally right, because that's what also we did with our Hirschen group. We were one agency in Hamburg, 1995. Now we are 8 brands and 22 companies, which are all they are not run centralized, and I'm telling them what to do. It's like when a group, one of the companies is getting big, we split them up, or if somebody comes up with an idea, or we can do something more digital, more with political communication, whatever, what they already did somehow in their former part of our group, then we let them start up a new company. They will be managing directors. They will get a share of it, and then they will run it as their own company inside of our group. And this decentralized way of doing things helped us grow to 800 people, which is in our business a quite big group. But it's like 20 companies with 20 to 60 people, and all of them, they feel that's their company. There are 20 to 60 people, and that's, I think that's really one recipe of success, to get people to do something which they feel is, they can influence it, they can run it, they can. The Berlin agency is totally different, like our Cologne agency, different style, different look and feel, different emotion, and that makes us stronger than agencies who just replicate what they did in one town.
And maybe to close it up, before we go into the Q&A, and you can ask questions. On a personal note, what has been your moment that changed the view of looking at this whole topic of creativity, of learning, of life skill, you said so nicely. Is there any moment particularly you yourself had where you said, now I really have to change it, or now I'm going in the process of changing it? Has there been a spark that initiated it?
Okay. Actually, looking at possibilities, just the word possibilities, sitting down, thinking creatively about possibility, and understanding the differences you can make in just think about things twice, talk about them, and then trying to elaborate them. In a normal day, I would say, if you do not use creativity in the way that you're working, in the way you are handling yourself, it will be, first of all, it will be very boring. But second of all, the possibilities you have at hand, they're huge. It's just think out of the box and use it in your normal day. And I pretty much think about it often, not every day, but often, and possibilities.
Spark. I think I have 2 sparks. So the first spark was when in Germany you go first to Grundschule, right, and then to the weiterführende Schule, so the next level, basically. And after I went to the basic elementary school, right, that's the word. My grandparents said, I'm coming from a small village. Well, she should just go to Realschule, so that's the middle class education, because then she can make an apprenticeship in the Sparkasse and can live in the village and can stay there. And my grandparents have a farm, so right, I'm coming from a very rural area. And my mom said, no, she's not going to do this. She can be whatever she wants, but she has to push as hard as she can, as long as she can, in order to basically do whatever she wants, to get the freedom that she wants. And I remember that fight quite vividly between my mom and my grandparents. And I thought, okay, I mean, there seems to be something in this here, so I better try. And I tried, and I went out of this village. So that was the first attempt, so to speak, and the first thing I need to be grateful for my mom, to really spark my energy and my, well, potential, so to speak. And the second one was when I decided that I want to move out of the normal tech career and actually try something on my own. And the reason for that is that my mom has been sick for 10 years now. So she has cancer and probably will not be cured from this cancer. At least we hope, but we don't know. And over the last 3 years, it's became worse and worse. And at one point, I was like, I'm exhausted of my job. I know I can do this for another 10 years, and then I will be in burnout, and I probably will have cancer myself. And I have just no time to waste, you know? So I don't know if I'm a creative person. I hope it doesn't matter. I can just try whatever I do and try to be as bold and as striving and as ambitious and annoying and provocative as possible, because I don't know how long I can be it. And I want to do it, yeah, in honor to my mom.
Thanks for sharing.
And now I feel I shouldn't say anything. No, don't worry. So for me, I think it was one patient, Herr Mr. H. And he was a software engineer, very, very successful, very smart man. And when we started talking about emotions, and I asked him, okay, I know now why you are sad, but do you know why we have sadness? Like, why, evolutionary speaking, we still have sadness and fear and jealousy if it feels so shitty, as it usually does. And he didn't have an answer. He didn't know why we have emotions, what they do, and why they're necessary to actually make us like round humans. And I thought, this cannot be okay. And he was there for a burnout, very typical. So I thought, I have to go into organizations and make them learn what emotions are, make them learn what reflection means, make them learn what mental health means, just to, yeah, allow them to use all their potential for innovation. And I believe emotions are 1/3 of that. So why shouldn't we use that? This is a bit my idea.
For me, it's 3 things. First, was a book by Reinhard Götz called Irre, which made me change from studying law to studying theater and communications. Then there was the actor Katharina Thalbach playing on the stage of the Schiller Theater in Berlin, and I'm sitting in the 5th row, and I had the feeling that she's playing only for me. I did not know her before, but I was totally flashed what such a situation can do with me. And then I moved from provincial town in Bavaria to Berlin. And the third thing, I was still a shy guy when I was 22 or so and studying in Berlin. Then I was going to the Beastie Boys concert in 1988, which was their first worldwide tour. And without that concert, there wouldn't be Hirschen group. I wouldn't be here. I would have been, I think, a good writer, maybe writing about theater and books or something. But this concert, when they stepped on the stage and started to play, like they were not totally famous at that moment. That was the start of their career. But I felt they are like 3 Jewish guys from Brooklyn, New York, and they said, we are doing exactly what we feel and what we think is great. We are using the black rap music, and we are white, but we're doing it anyway. And they when they went on stage and started their concert, I was totally blown away, and I knew that when you have the courage and the power to do it, that you can really do it, and you can change it, and you can really do something which has a absolute worldwide impact. And so that brought me from shyness to courage, and that started my career.
Thank you very much, all of you, for sharing. We quite hit the 48 minutes. So now it's your time, 12 minutes Q&A, and we can pass along the mic, right? Yeah. So go ahead.
Question? Yeah.
Yeah, so we were speaking about the education for tomorrow, and well, you said, well, if
I can say that we should learn to know who we are and go in that direction and build something with our talents. My question is, do you think this is actually German or European problem or question, or is it a broader one? I mean, European, or is it the same in the US? Can people like in every country think about that and go in that direction? Or, well, it was just to give some perspective maybe about this question, this topic. Thank you.
So I would say the European market or the European society has a strong history of humanist education. So on one hand, we have the opportunity in our cultural heritage to actually think broader than, just a very narrow mindset in education. On the other hand, however, we've created through the Industrial Revolution a very strong employer-focused education system that is all about Protestant work ethic and that is all about delivering what is needed in the workplace. And we've been incredibly good at doing this. Other cultures like the US, for example, have always been successful with a more entrepreneurial culture in general, not only when it comes to education. So also the education system is more commoditized in the sense of capitalized, so you need to pay for it, but you also earn from it, so there's a direct link to money, which is not so strong in Germany. But they are also more open when it comes to whatever works, whatever works to make you rich, is a good education. So it is a two-sided sword, I think. It's not the future of education, disrupting education is relevant for every country throughout our globe. But we face different challenges. So coming from a European background, we need to overcome the idea of employability when it comes to education. When it comes to the US, I think they need to overcome the idea of profitability when it comes to education. So different perspectives.
Thank you very much for the interesting discussion. I have just one thought coming to mind when we're talking about the culture of failure, which was also coming up in the panel about leadership and the future of leadership downstairs. So I'm aware, being a German, that we do not really have a love relationship to making mistakes. And we are very risk averse. But thinking about it, I wonder if there are not two sides of making a failure. So I think it's really not good being afraid of looking at possibilities because you're so scared of making a failure that you rather decide not to do anything or just do whatever it has been said or done before. But on the other hand, and that is something that I hear less often, it's also a failure of just doing anything, and anything is okay just because you do anything. And as you said, for a company, you really need to also have some guidance or some criteria to think about your ideas in a second step and make a decision of what is valuable, and even having some kind of guidance of guiding your creativity to produce not just any ideas but any ideas that are valuable. But how do you deal with that? Because on the one hand side you must stimulate people to be creative and daring and courageous and maybe a bit crazy. And on the other hand, to evaluate and assess and have some indication of that's helpful and that's not helpful. And also to deal with that, which might be a different sense of still having made a failure. So do you have any kind of positive examples or guidance how you deal with that with people or in teams?
It's a very long and very complicated question. Thank you. I would first like to say, there's an article made by a guy. He's actually telling about what are people, the 10 points that people are most afraid of. And death is number 6. Presenting yourself in a forum like this is number 2. So let's start there. There's a lot of things to be involved in here, and well, I don't even know where to start. Well, that's also courageous.
I think it's actually just the same thing when we talk about our basic needs. So when I sit with my patients, we always talk about, okay, either I'm egocentristic and almost narcissistic, or I give everything I have to everyone else. So we always just think in these extremes, like it's either or. But usually the answer is always a middle path. We call it dialectical dilemma, like you have to find a middle path. It's not about, oh, failure is trend, let's just fail with everything we do. No, you can still keep eating your sandwich normally, you know, like you don't have to like smear it over your face, you know, like this is not what we want, where we want to go. And I think it's the same with transparency. Like we say, yeah, we have to be transparent, but it doesn't mean you have to share everything at every minute. Please reflect on what does it do to the counterpart, the person you're talking to. So I think this is sometimes what people get wrong, is like that they think, oh, this is trend, so I hop on this, despite thinking, okay, what is the middle ground I have to find? Like where can I have like an experiment, where can I try things and evaluate them and learn from them, and where is it also great to just have like a system? Because when I sit on a plane, for example, I don't want the pilot to say like, I'm going to try out agile ways to land today in Munich. No, please do your checklist, do whatever you have to do, but please don't be experimental with that now. So I think this is what we have to talk more openly about, is like, what is the middle path? And it might look a bit different in this setting than in that setting, or in this situation, or in that. But there is no either or. There's always an as well as.
Are there any more questions? I will come to you.
A very personal question. Did one of you change something in the German school system for a future education?
I will up from August, yeah. I will up from August do a change in a school in Jena. They're very open for new teaching methods. And we're going to teach, it's called Expedition Gefühle, so emotional intelligence to kids in a different setting. We're going to try, yeah.
I don't like children, so not me. But I take them when they get out of school.
Yeah.
Hi, I am in school. I'm doing my A-level, and I have one question. I'm here because I have a startup as well, but in the middle class, I visited a profile where we are learning to do create a startup and something like this here. But actually, that is not normal in school education. And one question is, do you think the school system is now the right? It's now perfect because we learn math and German and English. It's good, but actually we are learning to do a job, but not to create a job or to do a company. When I'm listening to this, to take your opportunities to start something, that is very nice, and I like it as well. But I think that person more to do this have to do more the chance in school to learn it or to get a chance. How like is it? What are you thinking about that?
In fact, the school system has to be changed. The good things can be kept, but they needed some additions. It needs additions. It needs to teach the kids from the beginning more openness, more focus on solving things, more focus on building things, and not just on reproducing, because. Right now, everybody can check everything on the internet what was written before. So you need to know how to find it and how to play with it, how to make something out of it. And so I think there needs to be deep thinking about how this could be changed and how this could be made more useful for the pupil to get something productive out and not just to get something reproductive out.
Something you said really resonated with me. I have an almost 2-year-old, and I really don't feel like I have to teach him any kind of creativity. I feel right now my job is to build a safe space so he can retain what he has. And besides allowing failures, how do I do that as a parent, but also in the company that I work for?
So I think it's about being a role model. So talking about these things, asking questions, like really be your own child again, because sometimes we think, oh, it's so nice, they play so nicely, you know. No, play with them, go dive into it. Because we played a game, I think you all know that, where you have to hop on these islands and the islands get smaller and smaller. Yeah? So it was lava in between. And one of the children, he was 6, he started crying. And I said, okay, what's wrong? He said, there's lava, I can't, there's lava. So he actually saw lava. And I thought, oh yes, of course. I said, there's lava, of course there's lava. So like actually putting yourself into their shoes and trying to see what they see. I have to do that all the time, and it's weird at the beginning. We have to actually get into fantasy again, but it's a lot of fun. And I think the same is true for the workplace. So start talking about vulnerabilities, start talking about emotions, start asking questions like, okay, how are you? How are you? But in the sense of what do you feel instead of good or bad. So I think it's about little changes, but just be a bit more human in a way. Yeah.
We have time for one more question, so...
Very short answer, very short question.
Or just a nice good
Okay.
Very good. Right in time. Thank you all very much. Thank you for all the experience you shared. Thank you for all the insights. Thank you for your talks that you already hold. And then go ahead and follow them for the other talks. And of course, you will see them, of course, later on during the day. And you can get any questions you might have also for them. Rethink, reflect, think of the future as the work that we create, that we are changing something, and most of all, disrupt, and have a great day. Thank you very much.